The internet is on fire tonight, and Atlanta can't stop talking. Word just broke that Rasheeda Frost might be pregnant. But the story doesn't end there because Kirk is out here denying everything while Jasmine, Washington is claiming the baby might not even be his. Yes, you heard that right. Jasmine told her close circle that the baby could belong to Mendeecees, and Yandy Smith, already dealing with her own marital chaos, went live in tears after the news hit the blogs. What started as a quiet rumor has exploded into a storm that's pulling in everyone connected to love and hip-hop. It all began with a mysterious photo. Rasheeda was spotted outside Frost Bistro wearing a loose cream jumpsuit, holding her stomach, and fans immediately flooded the comments asking, "Is that a bump?" Within hours, the shade pages ran wild. Kirk tried to shut it down in the comments, writing, "Don't believe everything y'all see," but his tone didn't help. Instead of calming things down, he made people think he was hiding something. And just when followers thought it was another false alarm, Jasmine came forward with a voice note that shook the internet. "I ain't trying to start no drama," Jasmine's voice said in the leaked clip. "But if she really pregnant, somebody better tell Kirk to check his friend before he checked me. That baby might be Mendeecees." Fans froze. Mendeecees, as in Yandy's husband. Within minutes, Yandy was tagged in every post, her name trending alongside Rasheeda's and Jasmine's. She went live, looking furious and broken, saying, "I don't know what kind of lies people spread for clicks, but leave my family out of it." Still, her eyes said more than her words. Something didn't sit right. Behind the scenes, producers were scrambling. Insiders claimed filming had already started for the next season of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, and cameras caught Yandy storming out of a group dinner. Kirk allegedly pulled Mendeecees aside later, whispering, "You better clear your name before this gets out of hand." To which Mendeecees replied, "Man, I ain't touched that woman, but you might need to check your house." That one line became a viral meme within hours, replayed on every fan page, every reaction video, every gossip podcast. Rasheeda has stayed silent, posting only a black and white selfie with the caption, "Peace over noise." But silence, in this world, speaks volumes. Fans are dissecting every pixel of her post, her hand placement, her expression, her choice of words. Some believe it's a quiet confirmation, others call it strategic misdirection. Meanwhile, Jasmine's been seen in Atlanta again after months away, wearing designer from head to toe and smiling like she knows more than she's saying. Her friend went live later, hinting, "Everybody gonna be real quiet when the truth comes out." And the question everyone keeps asking, how did Mendeecees' name even get mixed in? Sources claim that during a private event weeks ago, Yandy and Mendeecees attended the same party as Kirk and Rasheeda. A few drinks, some old friends, a little gossip, and apparently, Jasmine showed up too. What happened that night is still unclear, but something about it changed the energy between all of them. Since then, Yandy's been distant, Kirk's been defensive, Jasmine's been smug, and Rasheeda's been glowing. Too much coincidence for fans to ignore. Now the internet is split. Hashtag Team Rasheeda fans say she deserves peace after years of Kirk's mess. Others believe Jasmine's stirring the pot again for attention. And then there are those who swear Mendeecees' body language in his last video said it all. Every few minutes, another live, another theory, another breakdown. And through it all, Yandy's tears on that live replay over and over, fueling a scandal that might tear friendships, families, and reputations apart. This isn't just another rumor. This is Love and Hip Hop Atlanta chaos at its peak. And if what insiders are whispering is true, the next move from any one of them could change everything. Under the dim lights of Frost Bistro, whispers carried faster than the music. People stared, phones recording, pretending to eat but really capturing every glance between Kirk and Rasheeda. She sat quietly, her hands folded over her stomach, avoiding his eyes. Kirk leaned back, jaw tight, checking his phone like the comments section might offer him mercy. In one corner, a producer whispered to another, "Keep rolling. This might be the biggest scene we've had all season." Nobody knew that a single rumor was about to turn Atlanta upside down. Earlier that morning, Jasmine had posted a photo from a hotel balcony, wearing a silk robe, her caption reading, "Sometimes karma just wears designer." Within minutes, blogs lit up with speculation. Was she talking about Rasheeda? Or maybe hinting at something deeper? Hours later, a voice note surfaced on a gossip page, Jasmine's unmistakable tone, saying, "If she pregnant, it's not who y'all think." That one sentence was enough to throw everything into chaos. Kirk's phone started ringing, nonstop. Rasheeda's publicist called 3 times before she even got out of bed. By noon, cameras were outside Frost Bistro, fans gathering like it was a premiere. Inside their home, tension filled every corner. "You started this mess," Rasheeda said quietly, her voice breaking. Kirk tried to speak, but his words came out defensive. How I start something that ain't true? They always blaming me. She shook her head, tears rolling down her face. I'm tired of living like this. I can't even breathe without somebody saying my name online. Kirk rubbed his temples, muttering under his breath. Here we go again. But this time felt different. Something about Jasmine's confidence, her timing, her smirk, it all felt intentional. Meanwhile, Yandi sat on her couch miles away, scrolling through her feed. Every post had her husband's name attached to it. Mendeecees trending flashed on her screen, and her heart dropped. She opened the clip, watched Jasmine's voice note again, and whispered, "No, not again." She'd worked years to rebuild her marriage, to clear her name, and now someone she barely knew was dragging her back into chaos. She went live, tears in her eyes, saying, "Whatever y'all think y'all know, you don't. Don't play with my family." Fans flooded the comments, some supportive, others cruel, all hungry for more. That same evening, Jasmine showed up at a rooftop lounge, surrounded by friends. Someone filmed her laughing, sipping champagne, saying, "If I talk, Atlanta gon' cry." Her words echoed online, replayed on every gossip channel. Kirk saw it, slammed his phone down, and muttered, "She tryna ruin me." Rasheeda looked up from the couch, calm but cold. "Ruin you, or tell the truth?" Kirk's silence was louder than anything he could have said. Behind the scenes, producers reached out to everyone involved, hoping to capture the next explosive moment. One insider revealed that Kirk refused to film until Jasmine publicly apologized. Another claimed Rasheeda demanded a meeting with Mendeecees, and when Yandi heard that, she lost it. A meeting? For what? To entertain lies. She shouted off camera, pacing her kitchen. Mendeecees tried to calm her down. "Babe, let them talk. They want to see us react. That's what they do." But Yandi couldn't shake the thought. Why was Jasmine so sure of her claim? The following morning, an anonymous page posted a screenshot of a text thread between Jasmine and someone saved as M. The messages read, "You told me to keep quiet. Now look what happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Fans immediately connected the dots, assuming M stood for Mendeecees. He denied it on his story, writing, "Don't believe screenshots. People fake anything for clout." But the damage was done. Yandi's comment section turned into a battlefield, and Rasheeda's followers split into two camps, those defending her and those demanding answers. Later that night, at Frost Bistro, Kirk held a private dinner for close friends and business partners. Cameras weren't supposed to be there, but someone leaked footage anyway. In the clip, Kirk can be seen standing, glass in hand, saying, "I'm tired of people trying to paint me like the bad guy. My family's straight. We don't entertain lies." Just as he finished, Rasheeda walked in late, her dress flowing, face expressionless. The room fell silent. She looked at him, then at the crowd, and said softly, "Funny how lies always sound like truth when they come from a familiar mouth." The crowd froze. Kirk stared, unsure how to respond. The internet went wild again. Rasheeda knew something. One fan tweeted, "She too calm for this mess." Others claimed the tension between them wasn't about the rumor at all, it was about trust. Bloggers replayed the video in slow motion, analyzing her every blink, every sigh. One popular gossip blogger said, "You can tell by the body language, sis hiding something." Within hours, hashtag RASHEEDA, pregnant again trended on Twitter, alongside hashtag Jasmine said too much, and hashtag YanDY live tears. As night fell, a storm brewed over Atlanta, literally and figuratively. Lightning cracked the sky while rumors sparked online. Jasmine posted a new story, a close-up of her nails with the caption, "I like my tea hot." Fans immediately tagged Yandi, Kirk, and Rasheeda, reigniting the fire. Kirk turned off his phone. Rasheeda went quiet again, and Yandi, despite saying she was done addressing it, joined an Instagram live hosted by K. Michelle, who asked bluntly, "So sis, what's really going on?" Yandi hesitated, sighed deeply, and said, "Some people love chaos more than peace." But before she could continue, the live abruptly ended. Rumors spread that she got a call midstream from could continue. The live abruptly ended. Rumors spread that she got a call midstream from Mendeecees himself. By the next morning, Atlanta woke up to new headlines. Rasheeda and Yandi meet privately at hotel. Paparazzi photos showed them entering a downtown venue separately, both in oversized sunglasses, both visibly tense. Fans speculated it was a secret sit-down to address Jasmine's claims once and for all. Hours later, Jasmine posted a cryptic message again, "Truth always finds its way out." The city buzzed. Producers confirmed cameras were nearby. Fans knew something explosive was about to happen. When Kirk arrived at that same hotel later, the tension reached a breaking point. Paparazzi shouted questions. Is the baby yours? Is it true about Mendeecees? Kirk stayed silent, head down, walking fast. But once inside, things reportedly got heated. Sources close to production claimed Rasheeda confronted both men, demanding honesty. I don't care about cameras, she said, voice trembling. I need to know who's been lying. The room went silent before Mendeecees finally said, whatever she's saying, it's not true. But somebody here's enjoying the attention. His eyes shifted toward Kirk, who clenched his fists. That was the moment everything cracked. Someone recorded part of the argument from outside the room, muffled voices. Rasheeda, crying. Kirk shouting, you always believe them over me. Within an hour, the audio leaked. It became the most replayed clip on social media, dissected frame by frame. Fans claimed to hear Jasmine's laugh faintly in the background, though nobody could prove it. Atlanta was now fully consumed. Every cast member, every fan, every producer had picked a side. And in the middle of it all, Rasheeda's silence continued, her only post a single heart emoji with no caption. Fans called it mysterious. Insiders called it strategic. But one thing was certain, this was far from over. The next morning came heavy. The kind of Atlanta heat that feels like it's carrying secrets. The streets outside Frost Bistro were lined with cameras again. And reporters whispered into their mics like soldiers on a stakeout. Inside, Kirk sat alone in a booth, staring at his reflection in a cold cup of coffee. He looked tired, older somehow, his phone lighting up every few seconds with new notifications. He didn't even have to look, he already knew what they were about. Every blog, every fan page, every YouTube gossip channel was running with Jasmine's latest post. Jasmine had uploaded a short video around 2 a.m. She was in her car, makeup flawless, nails sharp, and her tone calm but cutting. People keep calling me a liar, she said, eyes straight into the camera. But when the DNA comes out, we'll see who's still talking. That single line turned the internet into a battlefield. Kirk slammed his phone down when he saw it. He didn't sleep at all. She playing games, he muttered, pacing his living room, the walls echoing back his frustration. Rasheeda stood in the hallway, quiet but visibly shaken. She hadn't spoken to him since the hotel confrontation. You brought this energy into our lives again, she finally said, her voice low. Kirk turned around, exhausted. I ain't do nothing. She just won't move on. Rasheeda whispered. Then why does she sound like she knows something we don't? Across town, Yandi sat at her vanity, scrolling through hundreds of messages. Most were from fans, some from old castmates, but one stood out from Mendeecees' old friend in Atlanta. It read, you might want to check the dates on that story. Something ain't lining up. She stared at the message for a long time, thinking about the party Jasmine mentioned. Mendeecees had told her he was out of town that weekend, shooting content with a sponsor in Miami. So why is Jasmine saying he was there? She whispered to herself. She called him, but he didn't pick up. Instead, he texted, baby please, don't let them win. This is what they want. But Yandi wasn't satisfied. Her gut told her this was bigger than just a rumor. By noon, an exclusive interview dropped on a podcast run by one of Jasmine's close friends. The clip spread fast. Jasmine's voice came through confidently, saying, everybody wanna make me the villain. But I'm not the only one who knows the truth. There's messages, there's proof, and it's not just about Kirk. That was the moment everything shifted. People started digging, cross-referencing old posts, finding coincidences between Mendeecees' trips and Jasmine's location tags. Fans turned into detectives overnight. One even claimed to have screenshots showing Jasmine and Mendeecees checking into the same hotel months ago. Rasheeda saw the clip while doing her makeup for a shoot. She froze halfway through applying her lipstick, her hand trembling. Her assistant whispered, you good? She nodded, forcing a smile, but inside she was crumbling. She walked to the mirror, placed her hand gently on her stomach, and whispered to her reflection, they not taking my piece. Her phone buzzed again. It was her mom calling. Baby, I been hearing things. Tell me it ain't true. Rasheeda sighed. Mama, I don't even know what's true anymore. Later that day, Kirk met with his longtime friend and business partner, Tony. You need to control the story before it controls you, Tony said, lighting a cigar. Kirk leaned forward, frustrated. Control it how? She got a fan base now. Every word she'll say go viral. Tony shook his head. Then drop your own truth. Say something before they turn you into the bad guy again. Kirk thought about it. For years, he'd been the villain in every narrative, cheating rumors, secret babies, business drama. This one, though, cut deeper. It wasn't just about infidelity. It was about humiliation. Meanwhile, Jasmine was loving the spotlight. Her followers doubled overnight, brands were already sliding into her DMs, and blogs were paying for exclusives. She sat on her couch, legs crossed, watching the chaos unfold. Her friend asked, "You sure you want to keep this up?" Jasmine smirked. "They didn't care when they painted me the side chick. Now it's my turn to talk." She took a sip of champagne and added, "And trust me, I ain't said everything yet." That evening, Rasheeda finally stepped out again, attending a small event with Carly Red. Paparazzi swarmed, shouting questions, but she didn't answer. Inside, Carly whispered, "Girl, you need to tell your side. These blogs don't care who they hurt." Rasheeda replied softly, "I'm not feeding into lies. The truth gon' come out when it's time." But as soon as she left the event, another curveball hit. The Shade Room posted an anonymous claim that a medical report had leaked, confirming Rasheeda's pregnancy. The internet exploded. Fans congratulated her, others accused her of hiding it. Kirk's name trended again, followed by Mendeecees. The next morning Yandi confronted Mendeecees at home. "Why does she keep using your name?" she demanded, slamming her phone on the table. "Everywhere I go, people whispering like I'm stupid." He raised his hands defensively. "Yo, I told you I don't know this woman like that. I might have seen her once at an event. That's it." But Yandi wasn't convinced. "So she just magically guessed your number when she leaked those texts," she said, her voice cracking. He shook his head. "That ain't me. They faked that. People fake anything for attention." She stared at him for a long time before walking away, muttering, "Attention don't look that personal." In the middle of the chaos, producers reached out to all four of them, Rasheeda, Kirk, Yandi, and Jasmine, for a special episode shoot. The goal, clear the air. But everyone knew what it really was, a setup for fireworks. Jasmine agreed instantly, texting one of the producers, "Oh, I'll show up, and I'll bring receipts." Kirk hesitated but finally said yes, mostly to defend his name. Rasheeda wasn't sure but decided to face it head. Yandi refused at first, saying, "I'm not giving this foolishness airtime," but later changed her mind when she heard Jasmine planned to show evidence. As the day of filming approached, the internet went into overdrive. Fan pages posted predictions, memes, countdowns. One viral tweet read, "If Jasmine walk in with a folder, Atlanta done for." Everyone waited, ready for chaos. Kirk spent the night before, pacing the floor, muttering to himself. Rasheeda packed her bag quietly, her mind racing. She looked at him and said, "Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm done fighting for peace that don't exist." He didn't respond, just nodded slowly, knowing this might be their breaking point. The next morning, the set was filled with tension thick enough to cut. Jasmine arrived first, sunglasses on, energy calm but electric. Kirk followed, dressed in black, jaw tight. Then came Rasheeda, walking slow but steady, her presence commanding silence. And finally, Yandi and Mendeecees entered together, holding hands but clearly strained. The cameras rolled, producers whispered, "This is history." Nobody could predict what was about to unfold. But one thing was clear, someone was about to expose everything, and Atlanta wasn't ready for the truth. Lights hit the stage, cameras focused, and the air felt heavy with tension. The set was designed like a sleek round table, but everyone knew this wasn't a conversation, it was a battleground. Rasheeda sat upright, calm but unreadable. Kirk leaned back, avoiding eye contact. Jasmine crossed her legs, a half smile playing on her lips, her phone face down beside her. Yandi adjusted her hair, glancing toward the crew, whispering, "Let's just get this over with." Mendeecees sat beside her, arms folded, jaw clenched. The producer's voice came through the earpiece, "We're rolling." The host, a well-known Atlanta, through the earpiece, "We're rolling." The host, a well-known Atlanta blogger, started with a soft tone, "Thank you all for coming. The internet has been going wild, and fans are desperate for answers. Rasheeda, let's start with you. Are you pregnant?" A long pause followed. Everyone leaned in slightly. Rasheeda exhaled, eyes steady on the host. "There's a lot of noise, a lot of lies. I won't confirm or deny anything because not everything needs to be public." Kirk blinked hard, like he hadn't expected that answer. Jasmine smirked, whispering, "That's code for yes." The host caught it. "Jasmine, you seem sure." "Why?" Jasmine leaned forward, her voice smooth and sharp. "Because she not denying the right part. She denying the wrong man." Gasps echoed from the crew. Rasheeda's head turned slowly, her expression still controlled, but her tone icy. "Girl, you need help." Jasmine tilted her head. "No, I need the truth. You and I both know what's been going on behind closed doors." Kirk jumped in. "What you not gonna do is sit here and spread lies for clout." Jasmine shot back. "Clout? You mean the same clout you built off embarrassing your wife on TV for 10 years? The tension hit a new level. Even Yandi's eyes widened. The host tried to regain control. Okay, let's stay calm, but nobody was calm. Then Jasmine reached for her phone. Since everybody loved receipts, here they go. She opened her gallery and held the screen toward the camera. Blurry screenshots, messages, and a photo of what appeared to be a hospital form with Rasheeda's initials. The room erupted. Kirk jumped to his feet, shouting, "You out your mind. That's fake." Rasheeda stayed frozen, breathing unevenly. "Turn that off," she said softly, almost to herself. "Turn that off now." But Jasmine kept going, saying, "You think I'd risk my name if I didn't have proof? Come on now, Kirk. We both know how messy Atlanta can get when secrets come out." The producer cut the live feed, but it was too late. Crew members had filmed everything on their phones. Within minutes, clips leaked online. Fan pages uploaded the footage, slowed it down, zoomed in, captioned it with theories. Some called Jasmine a liar. Others said the paperwork looked real. Kirk's name trended again, along with hashtag #RASHEEDA truth and hashtag Jasmine receipts. The internet exploded. While the world dissected the clip, backstage chaos broke loose. Rasheeda stormed out first, followed by Kirk trying to catch her. "Babe, you know that ain't real," he said, reaching for her arm. She spun around, eyes red, voice shaking. "The problem is, I don't even know what's real anymore. I believed you when you said it was over with her. I believed every apology, every tear, and now she's standing there, waving papers around like she the victim." Kirk tried to speak, but she cut him off. "I can't keep cleaning up your mess. Not again." She walked away, leaving him standing in the hallway, cameras flashing around them. Yandi sat in the green room, scrolling through her phone. Her live chat was flooded with messages. "Is that your husband's name on the form? Did Jasmine lie about you two? Why you crying on live last week if it wasn't true?" She looked over at Mendeecees, who sat quietly, staring at the floor. "Say something," she said sharply. He looked up, tired. "What you want me to say? This is exactly what they want us fighting." Yandi shook her head. "I want the truth. If there's even a 1% chance you know that girl more than you're saying, you better tell me now." He stood up slowly. "I told you, I don't. But if you think otherwise, maybe you already made up your mind." He walked out, leaving her staring after him. That night, Atlanta couldn't sleep. Fans stayed glued to their screens, replaying every second of the leaked footage. Podcasts went live, bloggers speculated, and fan theories ran wild. One said Jasmine and Kirk planned the entire thing to boost ratings. Another claimed Rasheeda's pregnancy was real but the father wasn't Kirk or Mendeecees, it was someone else entirely. Memes flooded social media. People edited the footage into dramatic trailers. Love and Hip Hop Betrayal season trended worldwide. Rasheeda stayed silent for days. Paparazzi caught her leaving a doctor's office in oversized sunglasses and a hoodie, and the internet lost it. She confirming it. Fans wrote. Others argued she was hiding because of stress. Kirk, on the other hand, started doing interviews. He told one radio host, "Y'all gotta stop believing people who ain't got nothing to lose. Jasmine know how to manipulate the system. She'll want attention. That's all." But when the host asked, "So are you denying the pregnancy?" Kirk hesitated for a fraction of a second before answering, "I'm denying the nonsense." That hesitation was enough for fans to call him out. Behind closed doors, producers knew the scandal had gone too far to ignore. They pushed for a follow-up episode, a reunion special, to clarify the truth. Rasheeda initially refused, but after Jasmine hinted at dropping the final receipt, she agreed. "I'm done running," she told her stylist as they prepped her look. "If she wanna play dirty, I'll meet her there." On the night of the reunion, tension was worse than before. Everyone was dressed to kill, energy sharp as knives. Jasmine walked in first, holding a manila envelope. Kirk looked exhausted, Yandi looked wary, and Rasheeda, she looked powerful, calm, collected, dangerous. The cameras started rolling, and the host wasted no time. "Last time we were here, Jasmine showed some documents that shocked the internet. Tonight, we're here to verify everything." Jasmine leaned back, smirking. "Go ahead, I'm ready." Rasheeda reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "Funny thing about lies," she said, "they always come with holes." She tapped a few buttons, then turned her screen toward the cameras. "See this? That's the real paperwork. Timestamps, dates, everything. I wasn't pregnant when she said I was. That hospital visit was from last year for a minor surgery. But y'all too busy chasing drama to see facts?" Gasps filled the room. Jasmine blinked, her confidence fading. "You lying," she said weakly. Rasheeda smiled faintly. "Nah, you projecting." For a moment, the entire set went quiet. Yandi exhaled in relief, leaning back. Kirk lowered his head, finally breathing for the first time in days. But just when it seemed like things were calming, the host asked, "So where did the rumor about Mendeecees come from then?" And suddenly, all eyes shifted to Jasmine again. She froze, her mouth opening slightly, as if the answer had been sitting in her throat the whole time. Then, slowly, she whispered, "Someone told me to say it." The host leaned in. "Who?" The room held its breath. Jasmine glanced toward the producers section, hesitated, and said softly, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." The air snapped like static. This story was far from over, and everyone knew it. Before the host could press her, the room went still. Jasmine's voice had dropped into that low, deliberate tone, the kind people use when they've already decided to detonate something. "Y'all think I made this up by myself," she said, eyes darting from Kirk to the cameras. "Nah, somebody from production been feeding this story for weeks." Gasps rolled through the crew. One producer off-screen tried to signal her to stop talking, but Jasmine leaned forward, ignoring everyone. "They told me what to say, who to tag, even when to post. They wanted numbers. They wanted chaos. Well, congratulations, you got both." Rasheeda looked stunned. "So this was a setup?" she asked quietly. Jasmine nodded, almost regretful now. "They told me to drop that name because it'd explode. And it did." Kirk stood, pacing, his face red. "You dragged my whole family for ratings." Jasmine didn't answer. Yandi looked toward the cameras, shaking her head. "Turn them off. I'm done being used." But the cameras kept rolling, because no one behind them wanted to lose the footage that might break every record in the franchise. Mendeecees stood up, voice deep and steady. "So that's what this is. We all pawns in their game," Jasmine whispered. "I didn't think it would go this far." Rasheeda rose slowly from her chair, her calm voice cutting through the noise. "You don't get to say that now. You came after my marriage, my body, my peace, all because somebody told you it'd trend." Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. "They told me you'd never show up, that you'd walk away, and I'd finally have a platform." Rasheeda's tone softened for a moment. "You already had a platform. You just didn't have peace." The host tried to regain control, but nobody was listening. The crew whispered frantically, trying to decide whether to stop filming or let the train wreck play out. One of the producers finally stepped forward, saying, "Let's take 5. But the tension had already cracked open. Kirk slammed his microphone on the table, storming out. Yandi followed, muttering to the host, "Y'all should be ashamed." Mendeecees stayed behind, leaning against the wall, staring at Jasmine. "You know what's sad?" he said quietly. "They'll cut this scene, edit it down, and make it look like something else. Nobody will ever see the real truth." Jasmine looked down at her hands. Maybe that's what we all signed up for. An hour later, everyone left the set except Jasmine. She sat alone, surrounded by empty chairs and cameras still pointed at her. The lights dimmed slowly, leaving her face half in shadow. She whispered to herself, "They gon' hate me for this." Then she grabbed her phone and opened Instagram. Her fingers hovered over the screen before she typed, "Sometimes you play the game till the game plays you." She hit post and stared at it for a long time. By morning, that line was everywhere. Gossip sites turned it into headlines. Fans debated what she meant, and conspiracy theories turned it into headlines. Fans debated what she meant, and conspiracy theories multiplied. One claimed production was covering up bigger scandals. Another said Kirk secretly funded Jasmine's lifestyle to keep her quiet. Yandi released a statement saying she and Mendeecees were focusing on their marriage and stepping away from manufactured storylines. Rasheeda stayed silent again, only posting a single picture of a sunrise with the caption, "New light, new truth." Fans called it poetic. Others said it was shade. Behind the scenes, MTV executives called emergency meetings. They knew this scandal had crossed a line, but they also knew the numbers were the leaked clips had hit millions of views overnight. Producers debated pulling the episode, but one executive said bluntly, "We air it raw, no cuts. Let the truth be the drama." That week, Atlanta turned into a frenzy. People crowded outside Frost Bistro hoping to see Rasheeda. Paparazzi camped outside Jasmine's condo, and reporters followed Yandi to the airport as she flew back to New York. Kirk disappeared completely. His social media wiped clean. Rumors said he'd checked into a private retreat to clear his mind. Others claimed he was hiding from the press. Either way, he was gone. A few days later, a new video surfaced, grainy shot from someone's phone, showing Kirk at a gas station talking to a man in a hoodie. The man handed him a small folder. Internet detectives zoomed in and claimed the folder looked like legal documents. Within hours, hashtags like #FrostFiles and #Jasmine setup trended worldwide. Nobody knew what was real anymore. Meanwhile, Yandi appeared on a podcast to clear her name. "People forget we're real humans," she said, Voice calm but weary. This show started as entertainment, but it turned into a weapon. They made up stories, spliced footage, and used our pain for ratings. When the host asked if she believed Jasmine's confession about production involvement, Yandy paused before answering. I believe people do what they're paid to do. And sometimes, the price is your soul. Rasheeda finally broke her silence during an interview with a local Atlanta journalist. I've learned that silence don't mean weakness. It means wisdom, she said. Folks think drama sells, but peace lasts longer. When asked about Kirk, she smiled faintly. We work in on us, away from cameras. What people saw wasn't the whole story. It never is. The journalist asked her if she forgave Jasmine. Rasheeda took a deep breath. Forgiveness ain't for hurts for me, but I still hope she finds herself, because right now, she lost. And Jasmine, she vanished for weeks. No posts, no appearances, no lives. Fans speculated she'd been silenced by the network. Others said she'd left Atlanta altogether. Then, out of nowhere, she returned posting a photo of herself on a beach, hair in the wind, no caption. The image went viral instantly. Comments flooded in. You still standing? Queen of chaos, we missed you. Some begged her to drop more receipts. Others told her to move on. In a twist nobody expected, Kirk quietly filed legal papers against the production company, claiming defamation and manipulation of personal footage. The story leaked through a journalist close to the family. Headlines screamed, Kirk Frost sues network over pregnancy scandal. Rasheeda stands by him. That single headline changed the public narrative again. Fans who once dragged him started sympathizing, calling him a victim of reality TV editing. Jasmine's silence suddenly looked less like peace and more like guilt. By the end of that month, Atlanta felt calmer, but only on the surface. Whispers still circled about the missing footage Jasmine mentioned. Producers refused to comment, but insiders hinted that someone had saved unedited tapes from the set, containing raw audio of private conversations. One crew member allegedly sold snippets to a gossip page, where you could faintly hear a producer's voice saying, just say Mendeecees' name, it'll sell. The internet erupted all over again. Rasheeda's fans flooded her comments with love, calling her the only real one left. Yandy's followers praised her strength. Kirk started reappearing at events with a more humble tone, and Jasmine, still on that beach somewhere, watched it all unfold in silence. Because even though the world had moved on, she knew the truth had only been half told. Atlanta had its peace for now, but deep down, everyone knew another storm was already building. The storm broke sooner than anyone expected. It started with a leak, an uncut, 30-minute clip from the night of the reunion. Posted anonymously at 3 in the morning, the video was shaky, filmed from behind the cameras, but clear enough to recognize every face. No flashy edits, no music, no censorship. In it, you could hear everything: the whispers between producers, the raw arguments, the moments that were never supposed to air. The clip opened with a conversation between two production members. One said, just make sure she mentions Mendeecees by name. We need that crossover angle. The other replied, but she's nervous. She said it doesn't feel right. The first voice laughed, pay her more then. It'll trend for days. And then the sound cut to Jasmine being micked up, her voice trembling as she asked, what if this ruins people's lives? Someone off camera responded coldly, that's TV, baby. By sunrise, the video had spread everywhere. Fans woke up to chaos again. Hashtags like #ProductionGate and #Justice for Rasheeda trending within hours. MTV's social media went dark: comments disabled, posts deleted. Bloggers screamed that this was proof of manipulation. And old cast members came out of hiding to confirm what they'd suspected all along. They feed us lies, one former member said in a livestream. They twist stories, cut footage, and make you the villain if you don't play along. Rasheeda saw the clip before dawn. She was sitting in her kitchen, coffee untouched, scrolling in silence. Kirk walked in, still half asleep. You see it? She nodded slowly. They finally exposed themselves. He sat down across from her, unsure what to say. For years, their marriage had been dragged through public mud, their lives turned into a never-ending soap opera. But now, for the first time, the world saw that maybe they weren't the villains after all. You think people will believe it? Kirk asked. Rasheeda looked up, her voice firm. They already do. Meanwhile, Jasmine woke to hundreds of calls. Her name was back in headlines, but this time it wasn't praise, it was fury. People accused her of being a pawn, a liar, a sellout. Her DMs overflowed with threats. She sat in bed, tears in her eyes, scrolling through the comments. You ruined a family, one said. Hope the money was worth it, said another. She threw her phone aside, whispering, I didn't want it to be like this. She called her mother, who answered grog, "Baby, what's going on?" Jasmine choked back a sob. "They used me, Mama. They made me say things I didn't even believe." At the same time, Yandi was in New York, finishing a charity event when the leak hit. Her phone buzzed nonstop. She stepped aside, watching the clip, her hand covering her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. Mendeecees walked over, confused. "What happened?" She turned the phone toward him, tears welling. When he heard his name in that conversation, his face hardened. "So it was all a setup," he muttered. "All that stress, all that fighting, for ratings." She nodded, shaking, "And they let it air anyway." The fallout was immediate. Lawsuits piled up against the network. Sponsors pulled out. Longtime viewers started boycotts. Every blog, every podcast, every gossip account turned into a courtroom, analyzing every second of that leaked footage. One journalist wrote, "This isn't reality TV anymore, it's manipulation disguised as entertainment." Others demanded accountability, calling it the biggest scandal in the show's history. But for the cast, it was more than headlines, it was personal. Kirk and Rasheeda met with their lawyer, planning to demand full access to unedited footage from the past 2 seasons. "They twisted everything," Kirk said, frustration etched on his face. "They made me the monster so people would tune in." Rasheeda looked at him, calm but distant. "You helped them for years," she said softly. "Now it's payback." He didn't argue, he couldn't. Jasmine, meanwhile, went live for the first time in weeks. No makeup, no filters, just her in a hoodie with swollen eyes. "I need to say this," she began, voice shaky. "I didn't make up the story about Rasheeda being pregnant. Production told me to push it. They said it was already being confirmed behind the scenes, that Kirk knew. I didn't question it. I should have." Her voice cracked. "I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I'm sorry." She looked straight into the camera. "I thought if I did what they asked, I'd finally be respected. But respect don't come from lies." That live broke the internet. Within an hour, millions had watched it, comments flooded and some forgiving her, some calling it too late, but her tears felt real. Even Rasheeda watched it quietly, her publicist texting her, "Do you want to respond?" She typed back, "No, not today." Instead, she shared an old photo of her and Kirk, captioned simply, "Truth always wins." It became the most liked post on her page in years. Behind the scenes, MTV tried to do damage control. Statements were drafted, apologies rehearsed, executives fired. A spokesperson released a short statement. "The footage was leaked without authorization. We are investigating." But the public wasn't buying it. They wanted accountability, not excuses. Petitions began circulating, demanding the show be canceled, others calling for the producers to be named publicly. 2 weeks later, a press conference was, maybe not, but at least we see ourselves that way. Meanwhile, Jasmine carved her own unexpected path. She'd moved to Los Angeles to work in production, far from Atlanta's chatter. At first, nobody wanted to hire her. She was the girl who almost ruined everything, but she pushed through, taking small gigs until she earned her place. One night, during a behind-the-scenes shoot, a young assistant whispered, "You used to be on TV, right?" Jasmine nodded. The girl smiled shyly. "You taught me to always ask who's writing my story." Jasmine laughed quietly, realizing her chaos had somehow turned into a lesson for others. In New York, Yandi and Mendeecees had turned their foundation into a national campaign. Their seminars, part talk, part therapy, brought together artists, influencers, and creators to discuss the cost of fame. During one event, Yandi said, "We built castles out of pain because no one told us we could build peace instead." Her words made headlines again, but this time for all the right reasons. Still, even with the calm that followed, the memory of that scandal refused to fade entirely. Every few months, a podcast would resurface the footage, or a blogger would claim to have new unseen clips. It always reignited small debates online, but the people who had lived through it no longer engaged. They'd already moved past that stage of their lives. One quiet evening, Rasheeda received an email from a university in Atlanta. A professor of media ethics wanted her to guest speak at a lecture titled "Truth and Trauma in Reality Storytelling." She agreed, curious. When she arrived, the hall was packed with students holding notebooks and phones. She walked on stage, took a breath, and began. "There was a time when I let other people tell my truth for me," she said. "And when you give someone that power, you lose yourself piece by piece. The day I took it back was the day my life really started." The audience fell silent. For a moment, the same woman who'd once been edited into 1,000 different versions of herself finally stood whole. After the talk, a student asked, "If you could go back, would you still do the show?" Rasheeda paused, thoughtful. I'd do it again, but this time, I'd keep my truth in my own hands. That quote went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it felt real. It became a reminder that behind every scandal, behind every episode, there were people who had to wake up and live with the noise after everyone else moved on. As the years rolled forward, Atlanta's skyline changed. New buildings, new faces, new fame, yet somewhere under the city lights, the echoes of that old story lingered. The night love and hip-hop Atlanta fell apart had ended one kind of entertainment and started another, a quieter kind. Built on reflection instead of chaos. And sometimes, late at night, when Frost Bistro closed and the streets outside were empty, Rasheeda would step out back, look up at the skyline, and smile to herself. Not a camera in sight, not a script in her hand, just a woman who'd walked through the noise and come out the other side. She'd whisper the same words she once told herself when the world was burning. Words that now felt like peace. Truth always wins, even when it takes its time. The following summer brought a kind of stillness none of them had ever known before. Atlanta had grown quieter, not dull but calm. Like the city had finally exhaled after years of gossip and tension. The cameras were gone, the fans had moved on to new obsessions, and the old cast members were scattered across different states, living the kinds of lives they'd once only talked about wanting. But the memory of what happened still drifted like smoke, never choking, just faintly there whenever someone mentioned the word reality. Rasheeda spent most of her mornings at the shop now, opening early before the rush, humming softly while sorting new shipments. She didn't rush through life anymore. Her pace was deliberate, steady. Sometimes customers would recognize her, smiling shyly as they said, "You look happier." She always replied, "That's because I am." In the afternoons, she'd drive by Frost Bistro to check on Kirk, who was finally at ease running the place like a real restaurant, not a set. She'd watch him from the doorway, laughing with the staff. No script dictating his words. The people who used to whisper now greeted them with warmth. Atlanta had forgiven them, maybe because they'd finally forgiven themselves. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Jasmine called her. The number flashed across Rasheeda's screen, unexpected but no longer unwelcome. "Hey," Jasmine said softly when she picked up. "I heard about your new store opening. I just wanted to say congratulations." Rasheeda smiled. "Thank you. You sound good." Jasmine laughed, the sound lighter than it used to be. I'm working on a documentary about media accountability. Can you believe that?" Rasheeda chuckled. "You're the perfect person to tell that story." There was a long pause, then Jasmine said quietly, "I think we both are." Across the country, Yandi and Mendeecees were making headlines again, not for scandal, but for good. Their foundation had grown into a full nonprofit, partnering with universities and networks to build ethical training programs for producers. One journalist wrote that they'd become the conscience of an industry that once thrived on chaos. When asked about Atlanta, Yandi smiled. "It broke us so it could rebuild us. I think we all had to go through that storm to learn what peace really feels like." And Kirk, after years of public scrutiny, had found something rare: humility. He started mentoring young artists in Atlanta who wanted to enter entertainment without losing themselves. "Don't sell your truth," he'd tell them. "Rent it if you have to, but don't sell it." People listened because he spoke from scars, not pride. Every now and then, a fan would still ask, "Was it all real?" He'd grin and say, "The pain was." As autumn came, the network behind Love and Hip Hop announced a brand new docuseries titled Beyond the Lens: The Reality We Didn't Show. Surprisingly, all four, Rasheeda, Kirk, Jasmine, Yandi, were invited to be executive producers. They agreed, not out of nostalgia, but because it gave them the power to shape what had once shaped them. Filming began in quiet studios. No drama, just conversation. For the first time, the cameras weren't predators, they were witnesses. In one emotional scene, Jasmine and Rasheeda sat together on a couch, the lights low, just talking. Jasmine said, "You ever think about how many people we hurt just by staying quiet?" Rasheeda nodded slowly. "Yeah, silence was our armor back then, but now, it's our choice." Jasmine smiled faintly. "That's growth." The series premiered 6 months later to critical praise. Critics called it raw and redemptive, saying it felt like closure not just for the cast, but for the audience who'd lived through their chaos. Clips of Rasheeda's quiet strength, Kirk's honesty, Yandi's wisdom, and Jasmine's remorse flooded social media again, but this time, there were no insults in the comments, only respect. Fans wrote, "They gave us drama, now they're giving us truth." When the final episode aired, showing them all reuniting for one last dinner at Frost Bistro, Atlanta watched in silence. There were no tears, no shouting, just laughter, warmth, and a toast. Rasheeda raised her glass and said, "To peace, to truth, and to all the lessons we learned the hard way." Kirk added, "And to never letting anyone write our story again." The camera lingered on their faces for a moment, older, wiser, finally whole, and then faded to black. The morning after, the sun rose over Atlanta like a clean slate. The city hummed with life again, people opening shops, cars lining the streets, the skyline glowing gold. Rasheeda stood on the balcony of her boutique, coffee in hand, watching it all. Kirk came up behind her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "You thinking about the past again?" he asked. She smiled softly. "No, I'm thinking about how far we came." In Los Angeles, Jasmine watched the sunrise too, her phone buzzing with messages from strangers thanking her for her honesty. One text stood out from an unknown number. It read, "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." "Why?" She smiled, set the phone down, and whispered, "Me too." The story that began with betrayal and chaos had ended with something rare: redemption. Not the kind you post for likes, but the kind that grows in silence. Atlanta, once the city of noise, had become the city of lessons. And though the world had moved on, the legacy of what happened there remained like a quiet heartbeat, proof that even the loudest drama can end in peace if you let truth take the last word. Winter came softly to Atlanta that year, and the city felt almost new. The leaves had fallen, the nights were longer, and for the first time in what felt like forever, everyone who had once been tangled in chaos was learning how to live in stillness. Frost Bistro glowed warmly in the evenings, not as a hotspot for gossip anymore, but as a place where people came to eat, laugh, and talk about life, like it was something sacred again. Rasheeda had started writing. She hadn't told anyone at first, she just kept a small leather notebook tucked under the counter at the boutique. Inside it were fragments of her story, moments she'd never said aloud, thoughts she'd carried through every headline, every fight, every apology. One morning, Kirk found it open on the kitchen table. She walked in, smiling softly. "You reading my journal now?" she teased. He shook his head, closing it carefully. "Nah, I just saw your name on the cover. Didn't know you was writing." She poured coffee into 2 mugs, handing him one. "I think it's time to tell it my way," she said. He nodded, proud but quiet. "That's the one story nobody else can twist." That's the one story nobody else can twist. No, we just woke up. The credits rolled over that moment for people laughing quietly under a streetlight. The sound of the city faint in the background. And for everyone watching, it felt like something rare, something final. Months later, life went on again. Rasheeda's boutique thrived. Jasmine produced another film. Yandy's foundation reached new cities, and Kirk finally released a solo record titled No Cameras. Its cover showed an empty chair under a spotlight. The first line of the album said simply, "When the lights go off, I'm still here." And so they all were still here, still standing, still choosing truth. Not the kind that trends, but the kind that lasts. Atlanta had turned its loudest scandal into its quietest lesson. Sometimes, the greatest story isn't the one that breaks the internet, it's the one that finally lets you heal. By the following autumn, Atlanta's skyline shimmered with a gentler kind of fame, the kind born from legacy, not scandal. The city had grown past the noise, but the people who once defined it were still woven through its heartbeat, calmer, wiser, carrying stories that no longer needed cameras to be real. Rasheeda had finished her book tour and quietly returned home. Her mornings started before dawn, just as the sun stretched across the skyline. She'd open the boutique early, greet familiar faces, and smile at the life she'd built from what once felt like ashes. Her third book was already underway, this one called After the Truth. It wasn't about the past, it was about the quiet work of staying healed once you've already survived. In one chapter, she wrote, "It's easy to forgive once. It's harder to wake up every day and keep forgiving." Kirk had turned Frost Bistro into something entirely new. He'd added a community space in the back, a small room lined with photos of Atlanta artists, young entrepreneurs, and families who had come up through the city's storms. He hosted Truth Nights every Friday, where local kids could perform music, poetry, or stories about their lives. No cameras, no press, just people sharing what was real. "We ain't chasing fame here," Kirk would say into the mic. "We chasing honesty?" The room would always nod with that quiet understanding that comes from hard-earned peace. Jasmine had moved back to Atlanta for the first time in years. Her documentary had been nominated for an award overseas, and instead of chasing Hollywood, she decided to come home. "I left to find myself," she said during an interview, "but turns out, I just needed to stop running." She bought a small loft downtown, filled it with plants and books, and spent her days consulting for younger producers. Every once in a while, she'd cross paths with fans who'd say, you changed the game. She'd smile, humble and distant. Nah, I just told the truth. Yandi and Mendeecees kept traveling, their work reaching schools and networks around the world. Their Beyond Fame seminars had grown into a movement, and the foundation had started a mentorship program that bore their name. One night, at a packed event in Brooklyn, Yandi told the crowd, "We all came from stories that broke us, but broken ain't the same as done." She received a standing ovation. Later, back in her hotel room, she sat quietly with Mendeecees, watching old clips from their time on TV. "You regret it?" she asked. He shook his head. "Nah, because without that, we wouldn't know how to live like this." As winter settled in, quiet announcement hit social media. Frost Bistro would host a one-night-only private dinner to celebrate 10 years since Atlanta changed everything. Invitations went out privately to Jasmine, Yandi, Mendeecees, and a few others who had once been part of the chaos. No reporters, no crews, no sponsors, just family. The night of the dinner, the city was cool and still, a light drizzle painting the streets silver. Inside Frost, the lights were low and warm. Soft music played. Guests trickled in, laughing and hugging. Older now, calmer, wearing years of wisdom instead of armor. Rasheeda stood near the entrance, greeting everyone with the ease of someone who had let go of everything heavy. Kirk moved through the tables, shaking hands, grinning wide. When Jasmine walked in, Rasheeda turned and smiled like seeing an old friend. "You came." Jasmine nodded. "Couldn't miss it. Feels like a full circle." They all sat together at a long table, plates clinking, glasses shining under the soft light. The conversation flowed easily. They talked about their families, their projects, the people they'd become. For once, there were no awkward silences, no unspoken grudges, just laughter. Halfway through the meal, Kirk stood up, glass in hand. "I used to think we were famous because of how many people watched us fall," he said, voice steady. "But now I think we became something better because of how we learned to rise." He raised his glass toward Rasheeda, Jasmine, Yandi, and Mendeecees. "To truth, the kind that don't need cameras." They all lifted theirs in return. "To truth," they echoed softly. After dinner, they lingered outside the restaurant. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled clean. Jasmine leaned against the railing, looking out at the quiet streets. "Remember when we couldn't go anywhere without somebody recording?" she said. Rasheeda smiled. "Now we go places nobody knows about and it's perfect." Yandi added, "Peace don't trend, but it lasts." Kirk chuckled. "We should put that on a shirt." They all laughed, the sound genuine and light. The night ended without flashbulbs, without a single headline. No one went live, no one posted a photo. They simply said their goodbyes and went their separate ways, the city humming gently around them. Later, back home, Rasheeda sat on her porch, watching the lights of Atlanta blink in the distance. Kirk joined her, handing her a blanket. "You think people will remember us?" he asked. She smiled faintly, resting her head on his shoulder. "Maybe, but not for the mess. For what we learned from it." They sat there in the quiet, two people who had once been public property now living private peace. The next morning, a single post appeared on Rasheeda's page. A photo of the empty Frost dining room, sunlight spilling across the tables. Her caption read, "Truth doesn't end. It just grows quieter." Within hours, the image spread not because it was scandalous, but because it felt timeless. It was the perfect closing note to a story that had begun with noise and ended in grace. And somewhere, across the city, Jasmine saw the post, smiled, and whispered to herself, "Yeah, quieter but stronger. And now it's your turn to speak. You've heard every twist, every truth, every confession that Atlanta tried to hide. You watched lives fall apart and rebuild. You saw friendships break and mend. You saw fame turn to fire, and then back to light. This story wasn't just about cameras, it was about people, real emotions, real mistakes, and the kind of growth that no headline ever captures. So as this chapter closes, ask yourself, what would you have done if the whole world watched your worst moment? Would you fight the noise or let silence tell your truth? Because that's what Rasheeda did. That's what Kirk learned. That's what Jasmine finally found. And that's what Yandi and Mendeecees proved, that peace isn't a prize, it's a practice. Every one of them showed us that you can't heal in public if you're still lying to yourself in private. For years, fans called it a show, a scandal, a storyline, but behind the edits, there were real hearts trying to figure out how to live again. And tonight, as we close this story, we're not asking for more rumors or drama. We're asking for something better, the kind that makes you stop scrolling for a second and remember why stories like these matter. Because they remind us that fame fades, but truth stays. So if you've watched every moment of this journey, if you've felt the tension, the heartbreak, the redemption, then this is your moment too. Hit that like button, not just for the drama, but for the growth. Share this video if you believe people can change. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it Rasheeda choosing peace over revenge? Jasmine admitting her guilt? Kirk learning humility? Or Yandi turning pain into purpose? Because this isn't just entertainment anymore. This is a mirror. And every time you comment, every time you react, every time you choose empathy over judgment to are part of the truth too. Think about how the noise started, with whispers, posts, and leaks that turned real people into public myths. Now think about how it ended with 4 people sitting at a table, laughing without cameras, choosing silence over spectacle. That's not just a storyline, that's healing. And maybe that's the real message hidden in all this. Peace doesn't come when the drama ends. It comes when you stop needing the applause. But here's what we know for sure: this story, their story, your story, it all comes back to one thing: truth. And truth has never needed permission to shine. It finds its way through chaos, through rumors, through headlines, until it stands in the open, quiet but unshakable. That's why Rasheeda's final post hits so deep. Truth doesn't end. It just grows quieter. Maybe that's what life is about. Not proving yourself, but knowing yourself. So as the credits roll on this saga, take a second and breathe. Remember the lessons hidden between the scandals. Remember that strength doesn't always roar, it sometimes whispers, "I'm still here." Remember that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's courage. And remember that love, when it's real, survives every kind of noise. If this story made you feel something, don't just watch, join the conversation. Write your truth in the comments below. Tell us what this journey taught you about pain, redemption, or peace. Did it make you see fame differently? Did it make you think twice about what you believe online? Your opinion matters. Your voice matters, because every click, every word, keeps the truth alive. Subscribe if you want more stories that go beyond gossip, stories that show the humanity behind the headlines. This channel isn't just about who said what, it's about why it matters. We bring you the untold, the unseen, the raw and the real. And if you've been here from the start, you know we don't chase clout, we chase clarity. So before you scroll away, take one last look at what this story became. From a rumor about a pregnancy, to an entire lesson on forgiveness, honesty, and growth. From chaos in Atlanta to calm in the truth. That's more than drama, it's evolution. And you were here to witness it. And if you're still wondering what's next, just remember, stories don't really end. They change shape. Maybe the next chapter is yours. Maybe you're the one who needs to step away from the noise, fix what's broken, or finally tell your truth. If they can, so can you. So here's our final call. Don't let this video be background noise. Make it a mirror. Reflect, respond, reconnect. If you felt even one moment of truth in this story, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and join a community that values authenticity over gossip, compassion over conflict, and real stories over fake noise. And when you comment, do it with honesty. Not just team this or team that, but from the heart. Say what you learned. Say what hurt. Say what healed. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a recap. It's a reminder that life doesn't come with perfect edits or it comes with lessons. And if you're brave enough to learn them, you win. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying long enough to see that sometimes, even the loudest storms lead to clear skies. We'll keep bringing you stories that matter, the kind that make you feel something real. So like, share, and subscribe, not for the scandal, but for the story. Because when the world finally gets quiet, all that's left is truth. And here, that's what we stand for. Until next time, take care of your peace, guard your energy, and remember, no matter how messy it gets, truth always finds its way home.